How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac, and I'm here with a long-awaited video that I've been I've been waiting to make, excuse me, for a little while now. And it's been a long time coming because it took watching the first three Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, the first two Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, and now rewatching the first three, well, I guess four, and then again I guess six Tom Holland movies. But I'm finally here with the second to last part of this series, which is me talking about Spider-Man, and in particular for this video, me talking about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So, since I already made videos on these movies, I'm just basically going to be going over all three of them in this video about like my opinions, if they've been renewed, if they've changed, if they've worsened, and overall, like in these three movies, just like how do I feel about all three? How would I rank them? What's my favorite? What's my least favorite? My favorite moments and all that. So after this, at the end of the video, I'll talk about what I'm gonna do next, and the finale for this like little short series for the Spider-Man movies. But let's get right into it. Let's get right into the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy, the Marvel version, I guess. So these three movies, right? It starts with Homecoming, then you go to Far From Home, and in the latest installment, back in 2021, No Way Home. And I guess since I didn't really write anything down, I can start with the characters, the scenes, the set pieces, the music, the what's it called, the fights and all that. I can start with all that. So let me start with the music. Um, the music, honestly, I'm not really like remembering any of it except for when the Tobey Maguire's theme started playing in the third movie. So I can't really speak to it on that level. Like, I don't remember it, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. Because Marvel has some great music. And an example of that is the Avengers theme. Whenever it plays in like the trailers for it, like Endgame, when that trailer came out for it and the Avengers theme started playing, goosebumps literally everywhere. And I didn't even watch like an Avengers movie up to that point, or now actually, except for Endgame. Actually, no, never mind. I have. Yeah, all right, Endgame and Infinity War. But yeah, like for this, I'm not gonna say it's bad. I'm just gonna put it like a not applicable because I don't remember any of it. But I do remember more than the Andrew Garfield music, because honestly I don't remember anything from that, like at all. At least with No Way Home, I can remember like two pieces of music, one original and one from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So I can say it's better than that. But is it better than Tobey Maguire? No. But that's not the point. This music, honestly, it it wasn't horrendous, but I can't really give an opinion on it because I don't remember much of it. So I'm just gonna put NA for right now with an asterisk on it. But again, no comparing. This isn't the video for that. Um, Next, we have the characters. Or actually, yeah, we have the characters, and then after that, the story. So the characters in this, we have MJ, you have Ned Leeds, you have Peter Parker, you have Aunt May, you have Happy Hogan, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange. Who else? Who else? Who else? Flash Thompson, as usual. You have who else? I guess the villains as well. Yeah. So you have the Vulture, which is Hank Toombs or something like that. I don't think it's Hank, but Mr. Toombs. You have Mysterio, which is Quentin Beck, and then you have all the other villains at the in No Way Home, which don't technically count as his villains, but I guess at the same time they do. So you have Otto Octavius, you have Matt something, I forgot his name, but Electro. You have Kirk Connors. You have Flint Marko. You also have the Green Goblin. And overall, honestly, the characters in these movies are great. Are they developed as much as like? Never mind. I'm not gonna say that because that is not what we're here to talk about. These characters are great. In isolation, these characters are great. I have no problem with any of the characters because, for example, Peter, he is like any other Peter I've seen, but better. He's awkward. He's cringy sometimes. He's a nice, compassionate kid. He knows that his power comes with great responsibility. He's learned it, but at the same time, he's still a high schooler, so he still makes stupid, rash decisions because he doesn't know any better. He just thinks that these decisions will work out in the long run, but in the long run, they don't. So it adds up and it builds to his character. He learns this experience firsthand because he doesn't have anybody to teach it to him, especially after Tony Stark. With all that stuff that happened to him in Endgame, he doesn't really have role models, or at least role models that can relate to his situation a lot of the time. He has Happy, who can be a good role model. He has Aunt May, who can be a good role model, but Tony Stark was the one that was helping him out. Now that he's gone, he has to learn by himself, basically, how to do the superhero stuff. And that's a really good example. I mean, of course, he has to be the main character, so he should be good. But Peter, at the end of the day, in all three movies that he's in, Tom Holland, I mean, he's great. Like, he's amazing. I can't say anything bad about Tom Holland's acting for Peter. I can't say anything bad about Peter in the story because it's his character. Peter here is amazing. But then you have Ned Leeds, who's a great supporting, what's it called, character, aka the CEO of Sex. He's great. He's funny. He's not the brightest, but he is the brightest. One of my favorite lines for him is in the first movie, where he's in the library during the homecoming dance, helping out Peter, and then the principal comes in. She's just like, "What are you doing here, Ned? It's a dance," and he's just like, I'm watching porn." Yes, that his delivery is amazing. He's a great character. You have MJ, who's also good. Is she my favorite character in the movie? Nah, not really, but she's a great love interest. She's different from all the other MJs I've seen, but at the same time she's not because she keeps that same spirit of like, yo, I'm MJ and I'm different. So I think she's cool. Aunt May is great. Aunt May is amazing. She's a really good parental figure for Peter. She's funny. She's smart. She instills Peter with some good morals that help him out in the long run and lead to him saving the day. So Aunt May was a great parental figure. Happy's funny, but he's also good in like the kind of like that Uncle Ben type of role, but not really Uncle Ben, like in any sense or in most sense of the word. He's a good other figure, even though he's not related to Peter. He's kind of like taking that role unintentionally. Tony's great. Tony is amazing. For the movies that he's amazing. I have nothing against him because in his own way, he's helping Peter become his own superhero, his own man. And Peter learns, the hard way and the easy way. It takes a lot, but Peter matures into somebody who can really be depended on. And everybody else, honestly, like the high school characters are just side characters. Like they play no role for most of the part. They're there for comedic relief, or just for an explanation for Peter to be here. Like in Washington or in Europe, you know, they they kind of advance the plot in some ways. If Peter himself isn't advancing it, so they're okay, you know. Now the villains, right? My favorite villain in all of these movies, like in all three or four of the Spider-Man Tom Holland movies, I guess, is Green Goblin for sure. Green Goblin is the best villain in all three of these movies. Or four, what? Three, just whatever, three. Just go with three. But if it had to be like Tom Holland Rose Gallery exclusive, the Vulture was my favorite villain. If we're not including all those other villains from all those other movies, the Vulture was definitely my favorite villain, and I'll explain that more in the scenes when I go over that category. But the Vulture was amazing. He's a human character. Like, for a comparison, he's like Flint Marco in the sense like he's been wronged and he just has bad luck. So now he's just trying to provide for his family in the best way he can. He's trying to take care of his daughter, his wife. They don't know about the dirty life that he's living. He's just trying to make money, even if it's not a legal way, and protect his family, because family is all that he cares about. And it's a really cool villain because you can understand where he's coming from, but the means, oh, the ends don't justify the means. That's the stance that Peter takes at this point. Like, even though he can understand Toombs, the Vulture, he definitely can't agree with him. So it's cool. It's a really cool villain type thing, and it's a really good villain for the first Tom Holland Spider-Man like solo movie. So I really enjoyed him. And then you have Mysterio. Mysterio was really cool. Mysterio was really cool in the sense of like the twist with him and how it plays into the movie. How like, oh man, this guy is super sick. It's like, oh wait, this is not right. I like in the movie in Far From Home, like they talk about multiverses, but it's proven debunked because of Mysterio, because of his plot twist. But then in the third movie, it's like, oh no, multiverses are real, and it's proven right by Doctor Strange himself. Like that was super sick to me. Like it's kind of like a little reference showing like, nah, multiverses are real. It's just that Quentin Beck didn't know what he was talking about. But Quentin Beck himself, like the people behind him, they were alright. The main villain himself, Quentin Beck, was really interesting because he was more of a villain than the Vulture was. Like even more of a villain, even though what he wanted to do was to give people the hope to look up to a superhero. Since now Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, everybody's gone, like they're not here, and he wanted to give them hope, but not in a, well, what's the word, like a justice type of way, like a benevolent type of way. No, it was all malicious. He was doing it for money. Money, recognition, to spite Tony Stark, so on and so forth. It was not being a superhero. It was being a facade. And it was really interesting. In my opinions on that movie, I'll talk about later, but Quentin Beck was a highlight for sure. Mysterio was sick. But after that, you have the excuse me, the Spider-Man No Way Home villains, and the best one in that movie again was Green Goblin. Then it was Otto. Then it was Electro. Then Flip Marco, and then Kurt Connors. Kurt Connors, Flip Marco barely had any screen time. They were not main villains, like in any sense of the word. They were not main villains. They were main villains in their own movies, but here they were not. They were side characters to the evil side, or not evil side, the opposition, the antagonist. While Electro was more of a main villain than those two, he was more like in the middle. And you have Octavius, who was the main villain but now isn't. And then you have Green Goblin, who was the main villain. This dude is a monster. Green Goblin was definitely the best part. Otto Octavius was good for when Peter did the thing with the chip, showing like we can fix you. We helped him, and he turned out great. It showed that Otto, the Otto that Peter Tobey Maguire was talking to in the second movie is still there, like fully there, not just at the end of his movie. And it was awesome. It was awesome. I really liked the villains in that movie, but there were weaker villains, and that's something that you just have to look at objectively and say, yeah, they were. So those are all the characters, at least the ones that I care to remember. Oh, Doctor Strange was cool. Doctor Strange is great in his own movie, but here he was also cool. He was an antagonist as well, but in a different way. It was conflicting ideas, like Civil War type of thing. But yeah, now it's time for the plots themselves, and I'll talk about the scenes. So the movie that I thought honestly had the best plot, or the strongest plot in the sense of like, okay, this is a little contrived, versus, oh, this is great. I think the best movie with the best plot was The first movie. I think that one had the best plot. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that the first movie was the best movie. That's left to be decided until the end of the video or closer to it. But to me, I when I was watching the movie, I wasn't questioning the story a little bit because there are moments in the second and third movie that it's like, oh, no, don't do that, don't do it, please. And it's what's it called? Peter in the second movie with Mysterio and Edith, and Peter in the third movie with Doctor Strange and MIT. Now, granted, these are all Peter mistakes, and this is all just inexperience. But I feel like those things right there, like, took a little away from me from the movie. Like, it in the beginning of it, it was like, come on, Peter, that sucks. You're kind of garbage, my guy. You fought on a team with the Avengers, but you can't do that. And it's like, at the same time, he's a teenager, and at the same time, I'm not a superhero, so I can't say I wouldn't have done the same when you were lulled into a false sense of security by Mysterio, and you trust Doctor Strange because he's a wizard. Like, but you yourself aren't a wizard, so you don't understand the properties of the magic. And Peter didn't listen. He wanted everything that he had, plus more. So it's like, those aren't the story's fault. That's more like Peter himself learning, like, you can't have everything that you want. Sometimes you have to take responsibility for what you have, and sometimes you have to understand, like, you can't have everything. So that's not really the story itself, but with the with the first movie, Peter has that, but I felt like it was way more in line with Peter than it is in the second and third movie. Like, Peter wasn't doing that, following Toombs and Vulture to be stupid or being stupid. He was doing it to help people. And even though he didn't have the experience to it, I can understand, like, okay, you're trying to do a good thing, but you're just not doing it the right way. Well, in Mysterio, that was just Peter being vulnerable, for sure. Being vulnerable, but doing a not so smart decision. And in the third movie, that's Peter being greedy, wanting to have everything that he wanted, even though this is what he asked for. All of these, now that I think about it, are all kind of Peter's fault, but it's also a learning experience. So he had to go through these things. But for me, the strongest plot was the first movie because it was in a smaller scope, so there was less to look at and more to focus on with characters specifically. There was more high school moments, which I don't usually like because I don't like Peter when he's in high school. Not like Peter, but like the time period. I don't like him being in high school too much because it's just been over. It's been used so much because every time Spider-Man is always on screen, it's always him going through his backstory. Except for this one, actually. Except for this one, Peter here we didn't get to see him get bit by a spider. It just happened. We didn't. We only got to see like a few scenes of him in school. Most of them being in the first movie. But even then, we didn't see much of school. And after the first movie, school wasn't really an issue because the second movie was a school trip, and he was worried more about MJ finding out about him being Spider-Man and him liking her. And the third movie, no school was involved except for the MIT. That's it. But for me, the first movie just had the strongest plot for me. I can follow it consistently, and I enjoyed it consistently. There were any hiccups in the movie too, like, or at least too bad. They're like, yo, I can't watch this. This sucks. So I really enjoyed the first movie's plot. And if I had to rank them, it would be the first movie's plot, the third movie's plot, and the second movie's plot. Like, from top being number one to the bottom being the worst. Now, the scenes, right? The scenes. Let me go over my favorite scenes from each movie. So the first movie, the best scenes, the intro was amazing. And honestly, I think the intro for this first movie was the best intro out of all three movies because it was really Peter's perspective of Civil War and it being recorded on a camcorder. It was so good. It was so good. I loved that intro. I was dying the first time that I saw that because it was so funny. And then you have, you know, what is it? The final fight in that movie. That's oh my gosh. I'll talk about that in a second. You have Washington D.C., which was really good. You have Donald Glover and Spider-Man interacting two times. Those scenes were really good. You have what is it? Dang, I can't remember. That sucks. Oh, the ferry. The ferry was really good. The ferry was super good. You have Peter in the beginning of the movie going around being a daily neighborhood Spider-Man, helping a Dominican lady find her way. The guy who's like, "Oh yeah, Spider-Man, do a flip!" Like that scene was really good. You have the car scene to the homecoming dance. Peter finding out that this is the Vulture, and Toombs finding out that Peter is Spider-Man. When I tell you, like, this is one of the best scenes in all uh, 8 of the movies that I watched, or well, I guess 9, but in all 8 Spider-Man movies that I watched, I mean, Peter finding out that this is Vulture is one of the best scenes I've seen in these like movies. It was so good. I was literally at the edge of my seat watching that the first time. I was geeking out, cringing at the fact that like, oh, this is so awkward, but it's so cool. Toombs finding out that Peter is Spider-Man is one of my favorite scenes in the entire trilogy, and it holds a top 5 spot no matter what. It is such a good scene. I love that scene so much, even more than the final fight in the movie. But that doesn't mean that the final fight in the movie doesn't have credence to be a really good fight, because that fight is amazing. From them fighting in the underground, what's it called? An underground thing that Toombs was at when he was going to the supposed airport he said he was going to, all the way to fighting in the sky on a Stark airplane, to fighting at the crash site of the airplane. It was so good, so good. I have nothing but praise for that final fight. It was amazing. But then you also have the the storage security bunker that Peter was stuck in with Karen. That scene was really good because she was just so like she was really comforting Peter even though she was just an AI. Like it was amazing. She was kind of like a mother role. Like if Aunt May was there, she would have taken that role, but Karen took that role for him. And it sucks that we didn't get to see much of Karen later on, but she was great in the first movie. She was really great. I enjoyed Karen in that scene so much. But yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to remember from that. If there wasn't much, I'll probably put it in like the comments or something, like some scenes that I remember. But Spider-Man Far From Home. Let's go to that next. The scenes that were great from that were let's see. Let's see. What were good scenes from that movie? Oh, the when Peter was at Beast and he was interviewing or getting interviewed by people, and Nick Fury was calling him. And I was like, "Yo, do not ghost Nick Fury." Like that scene was pretty good. Then you have them going to Europe. I think my favorite scene from that before or in the first half of the movie, which isn't really my favorite. Like, how do I say this? The second movie is my least favorite, but also one of the best. But the first half didn't really have too many scenes that I liked a lot. I liked Spider Monkey a lot for sure, or Knocked Monkey. He was great. Mysterio showing up for the first time and helping Peter with the ocean monster. That was really cool scene. A super cool scene. You also have Nick Fury. Oh, excuse me. Nick Fury, Quentin Beck, and Peter interacting. Those are some really cool scenes. The Quentin Beck twist was really good. Not Knocked Monkey and Quentin Beck fighting the fire monster was really good. Peter and MJ finding out about each other, like MJ finding out that Peter's Spider-Man and Peter finding out that she may not have liked him at all. Uh, Peter getting ready to tell Fury about Quentin Beck. That was a really good scene. Peter getting completely bodied by Quentin Beck. Like, oh my gosh, that was on par with like the well, what's his name? Doctor Strange scenes in the Doctor Strange movie where he was out of his body and the bald girl, I forgot her name. She, what's it called? She kicked him out of his body and that was going on. Like, Mysterio messing with Peter was on par with that, if not better. It was so good. Then you have Peter getting a pep talk from Happy and building his suit again. And then you have the final fight, Peter versus Quentin Beck, which was amazing. It was so good. It was so good. Like, the second half of Far From Home is so much better than the first half. Like, the first half had me so worried for the movie because I didn't really like the first half of the movie. At least not to the same degree that I liked the first movie. I thought it was okay. I didn't really like it too much. But the second half was amazing. And it really shows what it seems. It was so amazing. But then you go to the third movie. And the third movie has a rose gallery of great scenes. You have, what is it? Peter and MJ interacting the whole movie was pretty great. It wasn't on par with Gwen Stacy, but it was great. Because Zendaya is, honestly, best MJ, for sure. She top tier. But them interacting, Ned being a good friend and not just being a third wheel, even though sometimes he could be. Um, the bridge scene with Otto Octavius, the the fight between Doctor Strange and Peter. What is it? All the villains being in the cells and just cracking jokes all the time was amazing. Them going to the condo and just Peter and Norman trying to help Otto and Max and Flint Marco and the Lizard, just helping them all out. That was a cool scene. Then you have the condo part 2 scene where everything goes bad. That by far was my favorite fight in the entire series, like the entire trilogy. Peter versus Norman was so awesome in that fight. I loved Peter versus Norman in the condo, in Happy's condo. It was amazing. It was greatness. It was godly, if I have to say. That fight was on par with like some greatness. And then you have Peter, or well, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire showing up in front of Zendaya and Ned. That was amazing. That was greatness, actually. Yeah, it was awesome. The with great power comes great responsibility talk with Aunt May and the other two Spider-Men. Basically, literally, I can say like from the end of Aunt May's Redacted all the way until when Peter, all three Peters are talking on the Statue of Liberty was one giant great scene. It was awesome. The fight between the Rose Gallery of Spider-Man villains versus all three Spider-Men. Greatness, top 3 fight in the entire trilogy. And then the final scenes with Peter telling Strange about the spell and Peter showing up to the cafe where MJ works at. All greatness. All greatness. And that brings us to like the end on what I would rank these 3 movies. So here's the thing, right? I'm gonna give it out as plainly as possible. The No Way Home is the best movie in all 3 of these movies, and that's just indisputable, or excuse me, undisputable. With how much it does for the Spider-Man universe, with how much it does for the Spider-Man MCU universe, with how much it does for all Spider-Man movies that were out there, and with how much it does for like the culture in general. No Way Home is amazing. It takes everything that made Spider-Man great, it takes all the Spider-Man that were great, and it puts them together into one great movie. Is it the best movie in cinema? like history. Meh, I don't know. I can't really say because I don't watch a lot of movies. So, but man, is it my favorite Spider-Man movie? Like out of these three, it's great. It's great. Like I can't say anything other than that. So number one is Spider-Man No Way Home. Number two is Spider-Man Homecoming. This movie was a great movie to introduce Spider-Man to the MCU. Like with a solo movie. Spider-Man Homecoming is one of my favorite movies, like ever. And I can say that whether it's a standalone movie or because it's just Spider-Man. With No Way Home, I can say the same, but Spider-Man Homecoming means a lot to me, honestly. I really enjoyed it. No Way Home means a lot to me, but for different reasons. But for Tom Holland Spider-Man, this to me is his defining movie, and I love it. To me, this is more of just Iron Man Jr. or Iron Boy. Excuse me. Like, it's it's great. And then the third and last movie, Spider-Man Far From Home. The first half to me was just so meh, so unabashedly meh that like I didn't really enjoy it too much. Nothing bad with it, nothing good with it. It was just meh to me. Quentin Beck was definitely a highlight in the first half. So was Nick Fury, but meh. I just thought it was okay. And then the second half of the movie, on the other hand, had credence to be better than the first movie. But because of the second or the first half of the movie, I just can't say it's better than the first movie. So I'm putting it dead last, but I'm not putting it there because it's like horrendously terrible. It's not. The second half of the movie fully redeemed the first half, but not in comparison to the other two movies in the trilogy. So it has to go last. But yeah, that was all three of the movies. Civil War had its own video, and this is what I feel about them like 4 months later, about all those movies. And I'm excited, because after this video, this is gonna be the last Spider-Man video I make for this series, and probably for a while until like maybe Miles Morales comes out. But this last video is gonna be talking about every Spider-Man movie, like what I would rank them, which one I felt like the best, the worst, and all that, so on and so forth. So it's gonna be a long video. It's going to be a long video. So I hope you guys are ready for that. That'll be coming soon. Hope you guys, are stay safe and take care of yourselves during these trying times. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe if you just like. If you think Tom Holland is more than Iron Man Jr., I guess that, or if you cried at the end of the No Way Home ending, that those are what's it called. That's what I think you should like and subscribe for. But yeah, I'll check y'all out. Thank you all for watching as always. We're almost there. We're almost there at the Spider-Man finale, the grand finale, like Mac Miller had in what's it called, Faces. But yeah, I'll check y'all out. Peace.